In this video I want to take you through the process of making and deploying tracers from start to finish. I just retrieved some gravel from the stream. I think you can see it, there's a little bar, little bitty bar just upstream of a debris pile there. So I scalped a bit of gravel from it to use to make tracers. Now I just have to carry that bucket of gravel back up this trail. Woohoo! So now, I need to sort the gravel. Sort it with the gravelometer. I'll just sort it into piles here. So this pile already here is the 16 to 32 pile. 32 to 64. 32 to 64, 32 to 64. So I'm looking at which hole it fits through. If it fits through the 64, then it's smaller than 64. It doesn't fit through the 32, so it's bigger than 32, so it's 32 to 64 class. If on the other hand it is smaller than 32 but bigger than 16, then it's a 16 to 32 size class. Goes over there. If it's smaller than 16 but larger than 8, it goes in that pile. Yeah, there's one that's bigger than 64, so I need a pile for that as well. And away we go. I think you get the idea. So, got the rocks sorted, and I'm most interested in this size class of 32 to 64 because that's the median size fraction on the bed. We got this jig here. Essentially wedge the rock in there, something like that, and then it pushes it down like that, and then there's a bar clamp to hold it firmly. Gotta remember not to push too hard, or I'll push the nails out, and then simply drill. But that's not quite that simple because we need water and we need kind of a blast of it. But kind of the more water the better it works, the longer this bit lasts. There's a mark on the bit to tell me how deeply I need to drill. That rock's pretty firm, but let me just kind of check. And on this, I have this, and two-hand job here, aim the jet at the base of where the drill's going in. And I've got enough water blasting in there, and it just goes in like butter. And that's all there is to that. So I believe this is one of the more expensive $10 bits. Right? $10 for a drill bit. This is a carbide bit. And what I found is that they're very brittle. So this jig here, this whole bar clamp jig thing is very important for being able to drill these. Otherwise it's easy to, if I'm just doing it with my hands, I can jiggle the rock by accident, shatter the bit pretty easily. Let's do a couple more of these. I'll put it in so I've got a nice surface to drill into. so that the bit doesn't want to slide off of the spot too much.
So the key to this is really the water. So if you got enough water on that, it keeps the sharp edges of the bit from deforming when they get hot, because they don't get hot enough so that the edges of the bit, the sharp edges, kind of not really melt, but so with enough water, you know, even the sort of the $2 tool bits, hardened tool bits will work all right in general. But these carbide ones just work a lot better, but they're expensive. Don't want to be breaking them. I broke a bunch of them before I figured out how to do this right. It's like, god damn, every time I broke one of those $10 bits, it's like, ah! That one did just fine. The test is to drop the tag into it and see whether the tag disappears into the hole like so. And it does. I mean, I can still see it, but it's below the top of the tag's below the surface of the rock, and that's what I'm shooting for.
Got some pretty good ones here. Got to be reasonably good at putting holes in these. Yeah. There are two different sorts of bits that we use to drill rocks. One is a hollow bit with diamond grit on the head of it, and it's plumbed so that you can shoot water down the bit. Those are relatively large bits that we need to use for the relatively large tracers, the 23mm pit tags. We've stopped using the 23mm pit tags because the larger the tag, the better it reads. Also, the slower the rock, the better it reads. So if we have large rocks that move slowly and they have large tracers, it's likely that they're going to mask the passage of smaller rocks with smaller tracers also moving faster. To deal with at least part of that problem, we're only using the smaller 12mm tags in our new tracers. That way the larger rocks will at least have less masking effect on the smaller ones. When all of the tracers have the same size pit tag, then the larger, slower moving ones will still mask the smaller ones, but less so. For drilling the smaller holes for the smaller tags, we've found that standard twist-type drill bits work best. We want to drill as small a hole as possible. We can use bits that are 3/32 of an inch in diameter. Our smallest diamond tip bit is slightly larger than that. We don't use the cheapest bits, though. We use either high-speed steel or carbide. There's a substantial difference between those two, both in price and in properties. The high-speed steel, say cobalt, whatever, those bits come in around $2 each. The carbide bits cost about $10 each. The carbide bits are a lot harder. They're also a lot more brittle. Conversely, the high-speed steel bits are not as hard, but they are tougher. They're less brittle.
Once we're finished with the drilling, then comes the filling. We fill the drilled holes with tags and epoxy. We use a 2-part marine epoxy. You can see it being mixed here. It comes out white, and it has the advantage of curing underwater. So that means we can deploy the rocks even when the epoxy's maybe not quite fully cured, because it will continue to cure in the water. We would like to fill the holes with only epoxy and tag, no air. In practice, that's a bit hard, so we do our best. My own technique is to pick a little rice grain sized tag, dip it into the epoxy so that it's got a bit of epoxy on the end, stick it into the little hole, drive it into the bottom of the hole with a broken drill bit, because they always break, and then try to fill the top on top of the tag with epoxy. Try to get that smooth, maybe gob on a bit just for safety.
Down lonely hours, drinking lots and taking showers. I no longer dream about the rest of my years. I'll check the little monsters anyone cares. In the doldrums on the dome. In the doldrums on the
You might well ask how durable the tracers are. When we're doing our mobile tracking, we don't find all of the tracers. We also don't detect all of the passing tracers with our stationary antennas. Because we don't find all of them when mobile tracking, I began to worry a little bit about how durable the tracers were. So I decided to do a stress test. I decided that a reasonable stress test would be to drop a tracer from some height onto other rocks from the stream bed. So you see me here dropping one of the tracers over and over again, 200 times total, from a height of 1 meter onto some rocks in the bucket. I'm also holding the antenna for the mobile tracker. Between drops, I'm holding the tracer up to the antenna to make sure that the reader reads the tracer. That is, the tracer still works. I'm happy to report that I did this for several tracers, and although a few of them had pieces chipped off of the outsides, all of the tracers were still working at the end of the stress test. Here's some tracers that I made yesterday. Both drilled and filled. Got them on paper towels labeled, all laid out very nicely and neatly, of course. 8 to 16s, 16 to 32s, and a few 32 to 64s. Here
got them in buckets. The 8 to 16s, the 16 to 32s, and the 32 to 64s. See, the different size rocks take up very different amounts of room. Duh. Before moving from countertop to bucket, I want to scan each one of them. With the mobile tracking antenna here. And use my phone to connect to the mobile tracker via Bluetooth and record a log of this process. Hello, Sophia.
Hello.
So, what do you have there?
I have our field notebook
Uh-huh.
of all of our stops, distances.
Yeah. What else do you have?
The tracking numbers.
Yeah.
And I have the tablet,
Yeah.
which is logging all of the tracking numbers. And
Yeah.
I have hip chain.
Yeah.
Which
Which is why we all keep our distance from you,
yeah.
because we don't want to get tangled in your thread.
No.
Probably can't even. Oh wait, maybe it. I can see it on the screen, so
Okay, good.
yeah. So that's recording a distance. Let's see.
Perfect.
Alright, cool. And then I'm here with the pipe because we can't walk in the creek right here because of Sammy's. What do they call it? Paraphyton measurements. So what do you have, John?
Some rocks.
More rocks. Let's see what's in your buckets.
Even more rocks.
More rocks and rocks. And these all have tags in them.
And our mobile tracker.
Mobile tracking
With our little hand
antenna,
reader.
which is sort of barely tuned, so it doesn't read very far. And
so.
chirpy chirp. And there's a tagged rock
Mm-hmm.
here in my hands. Trying to get focus here. Anyway, here we go. Say hi, John.
Good times.
Good time. All right. See this one there?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that one's good. It's still in the water. Deployment method where we can't walk in the creek. That's probably good. Thank you, Donna.